Updated information and operational update videos on the Barnes Fire can be found on the following locations: the Modoc National Forest and Modoc County Sheriff's Office Facebook pages, as well as InstaWeb, StoryMap, and you can also call us. That number is going to be 530-629-6101 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we will be available at the end of this meeting. If you didn't get any of that information, please feel free to come find us and we'll get you connected. We do have some members of the local board of supervisors in the building in this meeting as well, so if you have questions for them, they will be here. Thank you for coming, supervisors. Jenny, we'd like to thank you for your help in arranging the meeting, making the phone calls, and opening your venue to us. This is great, a great turnout. And thank you all for coming. We know this incident is impacting you directly, and it's great to see a good turnout when we bring all the agencies together. We're going to hold questions until the end of the presentation. We have a variety of speakers lined up for you to give you information, including a fire behavior analyst, an operations section chief. We have Heather Hadwick from your local OES. We have Sheriff Tex Dowdy. We have Chris Bilecki, your agency administrator from the Modoc National Forest, and Incident Commander Ken Kempter from Team 1. We'd also like to thank Susie and her staff. She's instrumental in helping with the technology and setting everything up here today. Okay, so our first speaker will be Carrie Williamson, and she's an operations section chief on California Team 1. Carrie.
So again, Carrie Williamson, operations trainee for California Incident Management Team 1. So I'm going to try to stay out of the light here. I'm not going to fully, most folks can't see the map. So, okay. So I'm assuming, I'm probably not going to use it. Okay. So as far as the map, most of y'all are local. You guys all know the geographic location, so you guys can I'll hopefully pinpoint a lot of the specific stuff so you guys can understand what I'm referring to versus just touching the map and then talking to it. So I just want to cover everything basically from Division Alpha. Division Alpha starts at the 9 road, the Fandango Road, I think is what it's kind of referred to as far as the locals. So it's kind of the portion where it goes up the hill to the north. So the furthest north portion, this is what we're calling Division Alpha. So as far as this area here where it goes off the 9, everybody understands where that fire went up to the north end. So as far as the containment lines on the north side, we've got a combination of hand line and dozer line going basically right through this finger right here and out to the east. The resources are currently in there. We've got multiple hotshot crews spread from the west all the way to the east to this division break right here. What I want to reiterate, they've got a hose stretched about 5.5, 6 miles from the 9 road going all the way back out to the east. We've got resources working, mopping that up from the 9 road about 1.5 miles, 2 miles in. They've got about 100 foot of mop up. And so what that is those folks have gone in there, they've sprayed water, they've dug all the heat signatures and tried to clear it out of any smokes 100 feet from the line, from the 9 road, going back out to the east. Continuing furthest out to the east, kind of where it's Bucks Creek and the Del Pratt Road, everything from Del Pratt to Bucks Creek, there's a continuation of mop up. It's taken a little bit longer progressing out to the east because they've taken dozers in, gone along the fire's edge, but there's a few fingers within there because they couldn't get right up on the fire's edge. So we've got a lot of the hotshot crews, they take saw teams in and they're going direct on the fire's edge to try to get a lot of the material. So there's a solid line right on the black's edge because the dozer couldn't get right in there. A lot of work has been done on this alpha side. It looks really good. A lot of the fire behavior has really moderated. Flew it this morning, pretty limited activity, just a lot of smokes as far as heat sitting under the junipers and anything sitting under the timber just because there's all the needle casts, so it kind of holds a little bit of heat. As we progress down into what we're calling Division Whiskey. So Division Whiskey kind of starts within this portion right here. You'll see this spot fire. So the large spot fire off to the east. There's line around that. Resources have been working on that. We've got hotshot crews, hand crews, engines working on that. It looks really good as far as the big spot fire. You see the multiple little spot fires in there. There's also hand line around all the multiple small spot fires that are off to the east and the north, as well as the large one. We've got some engines in there mopping those up. Everything coming from the point right here, coming all the way down to Fandango Peak, there's a combination of either dozer line or hand line. We've got resources working in there with some rotorcraft as well as some fixed wing aircraft this morning. Everything looked really good. Basically coming from this point all the way down till we get to Fandango Peak. There is still some heat in there. There's still some activity. The furthest east portion has been, a substantial amount of work. It kind of just crept around in there. There's a lot of spot fires. And so it's taken a little bit more time to get resources in there, ground truth everything. And we've put a lot of focus or emphasis on other places. So now we're really trying to reinforce the east side. There's this one spot fire right here. It increased in activity last night. We put a hotshot crew out there last night. They worked all night. They did get a hand line around it. Finished about 11 this morning. And we also utilized some fixed wing aircraft. They ended up taking retardant in there, put retardant all around, boxed in that spot fire. So there's no additional growth on that. If you drive the 9 road, for some of the folks that are moving cattle, you probably see that Rocky Bluff area where it's been smoking. Utilized aircraft in there. We've also got a hotshot crew that's taken some dozers from the north, trying to progress to the south, and then trying to see how they can clean all that up and either do hand line going all the way down to the bottom to the 9 road to tie in with our existing dozer line. So trying to make access to that so it's not a continuance of kind of a nuisance smoke that just kind of continues to burn in the timber. As we progress, I won't talk about this too much till I get down here. So the 9 road or the Fandango road furthest out to the south, we've got dozers that started pushing up this dozer line going all the way out to the east. They should be able to make it to the Rocky Bluff by the end of shift today if they haven't made it there already. So they should have dozer line from the 9 road going up to that Rocky Bluff, which if you're familiar with the Fandango road and you've been driving it, you probably know what I'm talking about because it's the large concentration of smoke where the helicopters have been working the last 2 shifts that we've been here. As we progress out the 9, kind of going back towards the west, there's this main slop right here. We've got multiple resources working on that, mopping it up right where it goes down into Willow Creek. Pretty steep getting into Willow Creek, super rocky. A little bit of vegetation in there that's kind of a nuisance and hard to get to. And there's this little portion that's furthest out to the west. They're currently working on that. It kind of got out on them a little bit last night and it increased a little bit as far as like acreage, but they were able to get line on that this morning. It's just in kind of a rocky, steep portion that isn't the greatest access. And then there's some timber in there that's holding heat. Resources continue to work that through the day. The portion that goes up along the 9 road back to the middle, what I call the middle slot, this middle slot, we continue to have resources working on that. That's the portion that connects to the 133 road that goes out to the 30 road. So a lot of work going on in here. We had multiple hotshot crews and some engines yesterday put some hose lay in from Willow Creek, trying to mop all that up and put in some hand line going back across out to the dozer line. So we've got line on that. As we progress out towards the furthest out to the west, or what I call the furthest kind of north end slop, this all looks really good. Dozer line, hand line all around it. It's been mopped up really well. We did add, I'll add that at the end. And so we mopped that up all the way back out to the 9. So a lot of work's been going on in there. A lot of resources have been mopping up around any structures, anything alongside the road, so we don't have any issues, down the road. I did want to point out that we did put black line on this little portion right here, in this area, right along the 9 road. And then what goes up from the 9, kind of going up slope to right about here. And so when I say we put black line on the map, that's just going to be additional containment. So just wanted to point that out, that we will have containment. We should have had it this morning, and I don't know if Derek will speak to that, but I just wanted to make sure folks are aware of that.
All right, thank you, Carrie, for that update. Up next, on an update on what we can expect on the weather, we have a fire behavior analyst from California Team 1, Patrick Doyle.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also going to kind of cover a little bit on the weather that we've had. It's been pretty favorable for us the last couple of days. So one of the things that's been happening is not only did we have the winds shift back to more of a southwest-west wind when the fire made that push across 9, that's really helped the fire push back in on itself and allow containment to occur on that side. But another thing that's occurred too is with the cloud cover. Yesterday was probably a little bit hotter than it is today. Today is about 10 degrees cooler than it was yesterday. Tomorrow, we're looking at the temperatures going down another 5%. Also, RHs, pretty much the same today, but last night we had about a 45% recovery, which was actually fairly good compared to the prior 2 days. 2 days prior to that was very dry. Nighttime RH recovery was anywhere from 15 to about 25%, which is really terrible. And we're also, with these conditions, it's also putting all our fuels in extremely, not only are we in the normal seasonal lows for fuel moistures, typically also we're ranging pretty high in our fire indices. This time of the year right now, we're actually right at 97th percentile, greater than 97th percentile for our energy release component, which we use as a fire indice to indicate potential fire out there on the landscape. And then same with our BIs, that's also kind of like a daytime, like it includes wind speed in it as well, is typically it indicates what type of fire behavior you may expect. And we're running about 90 to 96%. So you can imagine that's like we're in the top 10 to 3% of those days that we'd ever seen a year that could be the worst conditions for fire behavior. That's basically, you can kind of associate it like that. Same with fuel moisture is extremely low. Fuel moistures right now, very small. Pencil-sized fuel is about 3 to 4%, which is extremely low. And then also your 100,000 hour fuels, which, what it is our fuel moistures are so low. Just to put it in perspective, you're getting 100% consumption in your dry logs, or any logs dead and down on the ground, pretty much. Your probability of ignition, where you have dry grass, it's basically 100% where you have available fuels, when those fuel moistures are that low. When the RHs come back up, which we're going to see tomorrow, they'll come up about 20% higher than they are today. Temperatures will go down about 5 degrees. Those RHs being a little bit higher puts that moisture right back in those 1 hours, the grasses, those small diameter fuels, their carrier, your light flashy fuels. It puts a little bit more moisture in them, so it doesn't carry it. It's not so receptive. Probability of ignition goes down. Right now we're about 80 to 100%. We'll probably be closer to probably 60 to 80% tomorrow with that. One thing that was a concern is with the K hurricane kind of disintegrating, making its way up. It's good. It's bringing moisture up into the area. It's bringing cloud cover. But one of the things too it does is when it brings in moisture, it potentially brings in thunderstorms. But pretty low probability of lightning. And looking at today's spot weather for the area, it sounds like even isolated thunderstorms is going to be pretty low. Mostly what they potentially will see is tonight, 20% probability of a chance of wetting rain, and then it'll increase tomorrow, 30-40%. One of the things about that, the wetting rain that they're forecasting for, is very little. It's just a dusting. It's not enough to really put a stop in anything. But what it is it's assisting what's going on the ground. So just keep that in mind. And as we go into this next week, we'll have cooler temperatures, higher RHs, better nighttime recovery. All that's going to do is assist. We're still in very high indices. Fire will still carry, the fine fuels will still probably be dry and want to carry fire. One thing is we just, the winds that potentially could come, it looks like tomorrow and the next day we might have a little bit of winds. That's going to be a factor, but with a lot of the line contained on so far, that's a pretty good shape. The area of concern, I'll move now into fire behavior. Area of concern is still that east side of the fire. where it's up on the escarpment, where the spots are, and then where it comes down into Fandango Valley. Any of those pieces there, where if it can get out into fine fuels, it does have potential to carry in there if it has wind on it. One thing that's actually really good about this area up here on the east side, I'm sure you guys are familiar with all this out here, is there's a lot of rock out there, a lot of escarpment, a lot of broken landscape. So those fuel continuity is pretty, inconsistent. That's actually a real good win when you have fire trying to spread in that. If it's low wind speeds, it really slows it down. It provides firefighters an opportunity to stop it. When the winds are really high, it really removes that opportunity because they'll just jump along. One thing too is that it is dry enough that some of the trees, when they do torch, we are getting short range spotting that's anywhere from a few feet up to about 50 feet or 100 feet. Until we get those moistures that come up, still looking at those are going to be challenges out there. One thing else I wanted to bring up too is most of the line, as Carrie was discussing in Division A, has been lined on the top. So really the challenge up there is if there's anything that torches that might get across the line. I think I'm pretty confident where they're at, and actually what I've seen out there today where the actual fire behavior is out there, very little. That's very favorable. I was down here on the east side today, and right now it's a quiet day, but once we get those winds up, I'm more concerned to see what occurs out here for this little piece, since it is not lined yet on this side. Now, once you get over here in Zulu off of the 9, have really good confidence out there, even though it is in light, flashy fuels. With the winds, they might be doing a little chases with if they do get some spot fires. But overall, it's flat ground, easy to get to, easy to access. So I think they're going to be in good shape out there. And overall, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll be here, so if you have any questions for me, just come and talk to me about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Up next, we have from the Modoc County Sheriff's Office, your Sheriff Tex, and Heather Hadwick from the Office of Emergency Services.
Tex Dowdy, Modoc County Sheriff. First of all, I want to thank all of our partners and all the cooperators that have been working on this fire since it began. And that includes everybody from the fire team, all of our law enforcement partners, County Board of Supervisors, our CAO. Everybody's been involved in this, and I want to thank everybody for that support. Heather, our Deputy OES Director, and I have been in the field daily, monitoring the situation. Many of you have seen us out and about, stop and try to talk to you about what's going on as best as we know. The one thing I do want to talk about is we are wanting the permittees to be able to get in and out of that area to get the cattle moved. That's a priority for us. The one thing I would ask is keep in mind we got a lot of fire apparatus along the side of the road, and just slow down when you're going by them. These guys are working hard. They're hot. They're wore out, and we don't need to dust them out. Just slow down, just a safety precaution when we're going through there. So just try to think about that as you're passing through. As far as road closures currently, we have County Road 9 is closed clear through. We also have County Road 133 and County Road 47 is closed as well. And the reason why we have those roads currently closed is to protect those firefighters and the work that they're doing in there. As far as evacuations, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
And it's 133C.
Yeah,
So you are in a warning status, and that will stay until we talk with the team and decide it will go back to advisory. We did change our warning evacuation language a little bit, so we have 1, 2, and 3. 1 is advisory. That's what you guys were in first. So that's just to let you know that there's a fire in your area. Do some preparation. If you have animals, you make a plan with your family. Level 2 is warning. That's where you guys are at now. If you are directly by the fire, you need to be ready to go. So you should have your bags packed. We do have level 3 is mandatory. We have 7 residences that are on mandatory. We've stopped by and personally given them their warnings. All but one that's not as threatened has left and evacuated. We got everybody out safely. We did lose a structure. We've notified those folks and we've been helping them kind of absorb the situation. As I knew as soon as we announced it publicly, MODOC was going to want to help, and so we're trying to coordinate some kind of donation effort. So you'll see that in coming days. My phone was blowing up last night and this morning because people are so kind here. So the team's been great. We're trying to get information out. If you are not signed up for Code Red, please sign up. That's our warning and alert system. That's how we can contact you in an emergency. We try to do it personally. That's our best defense because we know that you got that message, right? And cell phone service is very spotty here. So Code Red is very private. I can't even see the numbers. Even when we send a message out, we don't get to see those numbers. We do not share it with anyone. It simply is, if you don't have a landline, it's tying your cell phone to your house, to that address. So it also is in most of the North State. So if you are in Reading and they have an alert, it'll ping off the cell tower and tell you that there's an issue in your area. So it's something that is very, very good, a good way for you to prepare right now. If you have a landline, you're automatically signed up with our reverse 911. So you could tie your cell phone just in case you're not at home. That's always a good idea. This year we launched Zone Haven, so you've heard your zones a lot and those numbers. We had went for a year and a half now, I think. We've been working on it. Zone Haven was actually gifted to us from Lassen County. They added us to a grant to pay for it for 5 years because it's very expensive. If you can go to Zone Haven Aware, it's easiest just to Google Zone Haven Aware. You type in your address, tell you what zone you're in, what level it's at. We immediately update that if we change it. We usually change that first before we get it out to anywhere. You can sign up with alerts through them as well. So it's just one more layer, right? We want as many ways to contact you as possible. It's a really good platform, and we're super excited that we had it just in time. I think we launched it 2 weeks ago. So we have not cut up those zones. That is possible. If the fire activity continues, we may do that. So you might see 35A and 35B. We are trying to keep it simple this year because it is our first year and we just opened it up. So we'll always have the streets listed that are mandatory on there. So just know we're hoping to get those people back on Monday as long as the fire behavior stays the way it is. So hopefully they'll get back in their homes on Monday. We update on our website. The cell service and Wi-Fi is spotty, so we try to do it as much as we can. We're out in the field all day. So we're out trying to take pictures and give you guys kind of a glimpse of what's happening out there. They are working their tails off. Our local guys, before the team came in, were super impressed with everything that they have poured into this. We had very little resources and they were on it. So, and then they were able to get resources that aren't typical for here. You don't get that big old plane, in MODOC sometimes. So I think there's only 2, right? Mixed state? 2? Yeah, and we had one of them. So that's impressive. So we just want to make sure if you see your local guys to thank them because they're working hard. They're probably sleeping right now. Most of them didn't sleep the whole first 72 hours. So I'll stop talking because I tend to ramble. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If you have questions for us, you can call dispatch at 4416, 233-4416. They will relay the message to us. We're happy to call you back and answer anything, any updates you need. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Heather. We know your staff has been working hard since this incident began. Up next, we have Chris Balecki, your agency administrator from the MODOC National Forest.
Hey everybody, so my day job, I'm the forest engineer for the MODOC. I've been down the road in Alturas for 6.5 years working on infrastructure, and as part of this effort, I'm the agency administrator, as Derek said. So what does that mean? Well, I'm representing the Forest Service and the Modoc National Forest specifically in working with and overseeing the incident management team that's here to help all of us put this fire out. And so it's important for us from a public land standpoint to make sure that we're doing that as effectively as possible while protecting the resources that we have on that land. So a little bit of background. I think all of you are aware, there we go. So from Davis Creek, raise your hand if you felt the lightning strike Wednesday. That's what I figured. I heard some stories. We didn't feel it in Alturas, but I heard here it was shaking windows and rattling houses. And so that was in this area Wednesday, and essentially within minutes, folks saw smoke, and we had folks responding, and then literally within an hour, it was, well over a dozen acres and off to the races. Unfortunately, it was at the bottom of a slope, and it was downwind, and so it had all of that fuel, all of that topography, and all of that wind to just drive it up and over the Warners. We were able to get some aircraft on it Wednesday evening before dark, but that took quite a while to get those resources dispatched here in time to stop it small. So we had some difficult decision making just a few hours in, and about 8 o'clock Wednesday, in coordination with our local firefighters who were out there working on that, we made an assessment, and we realized that this thing is putting us over our heads as far as our resources and capacity to manage this. We knew there was erratic weather on the way, and then we knew we had a complex situation as far as all of those resources that we were trying to protect. And so what we did was we made an order, and we ordered a Type 1 incident management team, which is the most specialized, most experienced team that's able to come in and manage the most complicated type of emergency. And so looking back, that was the best thing we could do because a lot of those concerns played out. We got that erratic weather that we were expecting. We did affect a lot of those communities and resources that we were concerned about. And so that was really critical that we got help on the way. With that size of a team, it takes a couple days to get in place. And so here we are, Sunday now, day 5 of this fire. The team is established. They're set up at the Lakeview Incident Command Post. They're getting their anchors set in, and now we're really starting to make some progress. That not only includes fighting the fire, but getting information out to the public, working with the liaison to get our cooperators and stakeholders and neighbors all in tune. And so we're pleased to see that all coming together. I wanted to talk just a little bit about what the forest has asked, in case anybody's curious. To simplify it, there were 4 priorities that we laid out. Number 1 was we need to protect lives. So that's the lives of our community members, lives of our public, and the lives of our firefighters. And so that was the top priority, no questions asked. The second priority was property. And so that's kind of a more broad category. That could mean buildings, that could mean cattle, that could mean timber, perhaps. And so the property aspect gets a little more complicated, but we knew that there were communities pretty much surrounding the southern, western, and eastern ends of this fire. And really, it's just that northern area, pretty much due to topography, that didn't have much population. I do recognize some folks from that Pine Creek area, so that is something that we're thinking about a little bit further north from that aspect. Then we've got the Fort Bidwell Indian Reservation, and so that was a priority for us. We've got 4 different cattle allotments that were occupied, and affected directly so far by this fire, and so that was an important consideration. We've got sold timber sales in these areas here. That was a priority for us, and in particular, we've heard a lot from Collins Pine because they have been banking on having some green wood because all of their own land burned up last year. And so that was one of the unique priorities that also got laid into this complex suite of asks. So essentially, that's what we're working through. And luckily, we've got a team on board that can help work with us through those suites of different asks. And as each day goes on, we help prioritize and help organize how we're going to approach that. It's nice to see now that the wind is blowing back that more traditional direction towards the east. But again, now we're still seeing some threat to that side of the fire and the Fort Bidwell Indian Reservation. And so we're going to be meeting with that community tomorrow, having a similar meeting and providing as much information and answering to their questions as we can. I think that's the message in a nutshell. So again, thank you. And we're doing our best from the behalf of the Modoc National Forest to protect these lands for everybody.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And with closing comments, we're going to have our incident commander from California Team 1, Ken Kempner.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this meeting. On behalf of California Incident Management Team 1 and the approximate 400 or so firefighters on the incident, we're really glad to see your participation and involvement. A few things were mentioned, and I just want to go over those quickly just so you can have a little more idea. We talked about an incident management team, and it's a little more than just firefighting. We bring people in that are specialized in logistics to support everybody. We also bring in public affairs staffs and public information. We bring in liaison officers to work with the community cooperators, such as the power companies, the sheriffs, CHP, anybody else that would also be serving you during this wildfire. The incident management team comes in with 58 people, and we're here to serve you in the community. We were ordered by the local unit, the hosting force, which is the MODOC, and they kind of give us the sideboards on how we're going to work and operate, and then we get to work on doing things. A couple highlights from this incident. Yesterday we had a total of 4 DC-10 air tankers flying on the incident at one time. That's pretty unprecedented for any fire to have that much equipment. This morning we had 6 single engine air tankers flying on the fire also. So as you may have noticed, there's a lot less smoke today. Things are looking a lot better. Good progress is being made on the ground. And we're getting all those functions up and running at full speed now to support you. That's all I have.